And we are back once again on Yankees Hot Stove as we continue on, yes, from Lake Buena Vista, Florida. Final day of the winter meetings, and that, of course, means the Rule 5 draft held. And the Rule 5 draft today, in the Major League phase, 9 players taken, including the Yankees losing right-handed pitcher Tommy Kahnle. We'll talk about that in just a moment. They lost 5 players overall, but only 1 in the Major League phase of the Rule 5 draft. Meantime, there are some diamonds in the rough out there because significant players all time. You look at players like Roberto Clemente, Johan Santana, R.A. Dickey's been in there, Shane Victorino. We're all Rule 5 guys. So there are some interesting names, and you wonder, Tommy Kahnle taken by the Rockies, could he be one of those guys for the Rockies?
He could be, Bob. I talked to Billy Epler, who's an assistant, of course, to Brian Cashman, and he said, listen, this is a kid who they had value for. He had 74 strikeouts, but 45 walks in 60 innings. He was the closer at Trenton. Batters hit under 200 against him. He throws pretty hard. Epler said, listen, if he throws strikes, yes, he has the chance to stay at the Major League level. So the Yankees don't ever love losing any of their players, but their hope now is that Kahnle doesn't stick with the Rockies and that eventually they could get him back.
And he's a guy that the Yankees did like, as you said, Jack. He was a 5th-round pick back in 2010. And if you remember back to this spring training, he got an invite to the Major League camp, and he was a guy that was around for a while. He was never really considered as one that had a chance at making the team, but the Yankees kept him up there because they wanted to continue to get a look at him. So it'll be interesting to see if he becomes something more. But right now, he's a 24-year-old AA pitcher, still a long ways to go to the big leagues.
I don't think Yankee fans should really worry, get panicked that they've lost some diamond in the rough. Not in this case. I mean, Kahnle's got a great arm, does throw in the high 90s, but he has trouble controlling his secondary stuff. And look, the Yankees made him available last year when they wanted to look into Michael Young possibly. They made him available in the Soriano trade. And he was unprotected, so it really goes to show in the long run they did project the future without him.
All right, so we said sometimes there's a diamond in the rough. Sometimes there's some interesting names. And for the Texas Rangers today, taken in the Major League phase, Russell Wilson, who moonlights as the Seattle Seahawks quarterback.
You heard them say Russell Wilson, and you're saying to yourself, that Russell Wilson? Is that the Russell Wilson they're talking about? As you said, Bob, this guy has a few other things to do as the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. But here's what the Rangers are thinking. This is a leader. This is a guy who's a motivator. And for a very small sum of money, they get to invite him to the minor league camp, spring training, let all of their players, especially young players, absorb what Russell Wilson has to bring. Wilson loves baseball, and according to John Blake, who works for the Texas Rangers, both Wilson and John Daniels had a conversation already, and Wilson said he was pumped up, that he thought he was going to do it. I'm sure the Seahawks want to make sure that he doesn't get hit with any errant foul balls, or that if he's in the cage that he's got a helmet and maybe all of his gear on, but kind of a quirky little thing. He's not going to play baseball, but he might have an impact on the Rangers organization.
I don't think there's any question that he's not going to be playing baseball, but that's the hope, that maybe he comes a couple days just to talk to some of the younger guys and take that leadership role. So certainly an interesting pick, and certainly raise some eyebrows today at that Rule 5 draft.
Well, you know, Meredith, I think this really lends credence to a sort of an outdated philosophy that, you know, intangibles don't matter, leadership doesn't matter, personalities don't matter. It's all about numbers now and performance. Well, I don't believe that. I mean, I think the kind of people that you put in the clubhouse has a direct impact on how your team performs. In this case, the Rangers are willing to say, look, he's not going to be on the team, but we want him around to lend his expertise, his personality, his charisma, and to let him rub off on the younger guys. And I think it's a tremendous move.
By the way, final note on the Rule 5, it always happens on the final day, as we mentioned, of the winter meetings, and every guy that's in that room has their hand on their suitcase and they're roll along ready to go, Jack, because they bolt right after that.
They do leave right after that, but I want to defer to Bob because I want him to give his point, and I want to counter it. You're ready to you want to blow this system up. You don't even want this Rule 5 draft to be occurring here anymore.
Right. No, I'm not opposed to the Rule 5 drafts. Obviously, it has an important function in the industry, but the fact that you have to assemble everybody under one roof in the year 2013 is very outdated. I mean, you can do the whole thing electronically, Jack. I mean, they don't have to be here.
Bob and I had this argument off camera. Here's where I disagree. People tend to forget that this event has a very big minor league flavor to it. They are the ones who spearhead it and get it going. The Rule 5 is a big deal for the minor league folks, so I think that's part of the reason that they have it. Bob talks about doing it electronically. I've said this to him 3 times. I'll repeat it. What if there's a big windstorm or a snowstorm in Seattle and they lose their internet connection, and Seattle Mariners, you're on the board, it's your turn to pick, and everyone's got to wait. So I don't think it's going away. I think they're going to keep it here.
It would be total anarchy. Not to mention, everybody's here for the winter meetings anyway. So getting them under one roof is not that big of a deal.
Meredith, don't you think Bob just wants to go home early?
He wanted no part of Thursday.
Well, just me. We're all going to be on the same flight today.